Today I'll be filming my January wrap-up, which is the first wrap-up I've ever done. Usually I don't honestly read a whole, I do love reading, but I don't have the time to read a ton, so that's why I never really do wrap-ups, because I probably only read like one or two books. But this year, for some reason, I've been really good at reading a lot. Not that I have more time, I just have made time. I've found time to read more books. So I'm filming a January wrap-up, and if you're wondering why I'm wearing the same shirt as my book outlet haul, it's because I'm filming it right after that, so I'm sorry that I'm wearing the exact same outfit. Also this month, I'll talk a little bit more about it when I get to the books, but I've been rereading audiobooks, which is something I never really wanted to do because for some reason I feel like audiobooks are cheating, but I also kind of disagree with that now. I mean, to me it's the same thing. Like, sometimes people don't have time to sit down and actually physically read a book, but lots of times people can listen to books, and I take a bus to school a lot, and now I've found out that I get motion sickness while on the bus, so that's, an hour of my day I'm not doing anything, and I feel like it's wasting time not to do anything, so I'm trying audiobooks, although audiobooks are kind of expensive. We'll kind of see how that goes. Maybe, I don't know what I'll do. We'll figure it out as time comes along. If I'm really missing that time reading, then I guess I'll have to figure out a way to make audiobooks and the financial commitment work. But the first book I read this month I do not have with me because my friend is reading it, because I would like to see what she thinks about it, because I don't have a ton of friends in college that read as much as I do, or read the types of books I do, and that is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This book I kind of bought after a while because I knew a lot of people were loving it, or there's some, I guess there are a little bit of mixed reviews, but I knew a lot of people who were loving it, and I knew that there's some twists in the book. I gave that book a 3 out of 5 stars. I liked it. I guess I agree with people out there who have said that I think the book was kind of ruined for me because I knew a twist was coming, so the whole time I'm just quickly reading the book just to find out what the twist was, and I think sirens in the background. I live really close to a senior living center, and I feel like they probably have ambulances around them. And I live really close to a fire station, which is good if I ever set my apartment on fire, but I don't plan on doing that. Usually happen at night, though, so it's weird that it's during the day. People are playing basketball outside now, too. So many interruptions! Patiently waiting for the siren to go away. Nope. Nope. What if it's coming to my apartment? I just don't know. That would be really devastating. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying about We Were Liars, I liked it. I think the fact that I knew a twist was coming just kind of a little bit ruined it for me. The ending, I kind of predicted the ending of the book, but I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to ruin it for those who haven't read it. I liked it overall, but it just wasn't my favorite. The twist really, I don't know. I found out recently that a lot of the books I've been reading this past month, I just didn't like the endings of, really, and I feel like that's why I downgraded them. But that was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. The next book I read is Somebody Up There Hates You by Hollis Seaman. This book is about a boy who is in hospice care, and he's basically just trying to enjoy the last few weeks he has left to live, and he ends up falling in love and meeting this girl who lives also on the same floor, and her dad doesn't want them to be together, and so it's kind of all about people don't want them to be together, and him just, enjoying his life and doing whatever he can. And I don't want to say too much about it because part of, if I tell you all the adventures he has, it's going to ruin part of the book. Basically, the whole premise of the book is it's about a kid who's living the last few weeks of his life. I did like the book overall. For a while I was kind of wondering how the book was going to end, which may seem silly, but yeah. The ending of the book was a little weird, which is, like I said, I don't really like the endings of books recently, I've discovered. So that has been new for me, not enjoying the endings of books, and that's kind of, I think I gave this one like a 2.5 out of 5 stars. But that was Somebody Up There Hates You by Hollis Seaman. The next book I read was Now and Forever by Suzanne Colasanti. This was a book that I wanted to read for a long time. I bought it a while ago, and I think, overhyped the book, was kind of the issue with that. I overhyped it, thought I'd really, really love it, because it's about this girl who has a boyfriend who is becoming a really big pop star, and over the course of the book he becomes even more and more famous, and she has to deal with her boyfriend becoming really famous, and she kind of struggles with that because everyone's starting to love him and girls are starting to give him all this attention, and she's getting jealous. And this was, obviously it's a romance type book, and the ending of this book, for a while I struggled with it. At first I was like, no, this is not what I wanted it to end, but now I honestly think it's one of my favorite endings of any book I've ever read, because it's not something you totally expect, but it was amazing. Once I finally came to terms with what the ending of the book was, I really, really loved it. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I think part of it, like I said, was because I overhyped it, thought it was going to be really, really great, but the ending of the book I absolutely loved. So that was Now and Forever by Suzanne Colasanti. The next book I read was The Choice by Nicholas Sparks. This was a book I read because obviously the movie's coming out, and I thought it would take me longer to read it, so I started it earlier, but during the course of this book I picked up an audiobook, which made that book process go really, a lot quicker than usual. But it's basically about a woman who's living next door to her neighbor. I really should know the characters of these books, but for some reason I just use general terms like woman and man. But what I don't know. It's hard. Travis and what's her name? Don't tell me her name. Cool, back of the book. Cool. Don't tell me her name. Why don't I know her name? This is really sad. Gabby. Duh. This book is about a woman named Gabby who's living next door to her neighbor named Travis, and they kind of develop a relationship over time. She is dating someone else named Kevin, and it's just all about them kind of having to deal with the fact that they might be falling in love, although she doesn't want to admit it. That's what this book is about, and it's all about the choice, which I cannot explain what the choice is, but once you get to the end, you figure out, you'll understand the meaning of why the book's called The Choice. And for some, stupid reason, I never really, thought about the fact the book was called The Choice the entire time. Once they talked about what the decision / the choice was, I was like, oh, I probably should have thought about that earlier on, because now I'm sitting here, didn't realize that this book had something other than just the romance, but I'm stupid, didn't realize that. The ending of this book, I absolutely hated. It made me so mad because I can't explain why, because I'll ruin the book, but this ending of the book just really made me really, really mad. Luckily, I had a friend who'd read this book, so once I finished this book, I could vent to her about how much the ending of the book frustrated me, and I get why it happened, but I just didn't like it, so I gave this book, I think, a 2.5 to 3 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read was Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire. This book I read because of Lovely Like Lauren. She talked about how much she loved it, and it was on Book Outlet, and so I read it. It is very, very similar, in my opinion, to After, which is why I did like the book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think I liked it as much as I should have, because it just had so many similarities to After. But this book is about this good girl named Abby, who falls in love with a boy named Travis, just like The Choice. And he's the bad boy, and he sleeps around with a bunch of girls, and he just has a bad reputation. And she doesn't want anything to do with him, but then he finally kind of convinces her to, end up, just whatever. They have a friendship, and he convinces her to finally have a friendship, and then it develops into something more. And like I said, if I hadn't read After, I feel like this book would be new and interesting to me, but to me it just felt like every other bad boy, good girl romance, which is fine, but I don't know. I guess I have read After so recently, or just know that idea so well, that to me it wasn't anything new to me. There's so many times I was reading it where I was like, oh, this is just like After. Oh, this reminds me of After, and but if you haven't read After, if you're not very familiar with the whole bad boy, good girl romance, I really do think this book is good. For All This is another book that I was like, how is this book going to end? Because I feel like it kind of dragged on, and that I feel is more due to the fact that I don't usually read books that are, I think it's 400 something pages. I don't usually read books that are super long right now. I usually read shorter books, so that was also, I think, why it felt like it was really long to me. I really did like the ending. I liked the ending of this book. I didn't love it. I expected the ending. But that was my review of Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire. those are all the books I read in January. I read 5 books. I don't know if I'm going to be reading the same amount or more in like upcoming months. I think I'll probably be reading less books, but I'll try to keep doing wrap-ups because I think they're kind of fun and kind of interesting, and it'll be nice to look back and see what I thought of different books. But those were the 5 books I read in the month of January.